everyone, for this segment of the Full Court Breakdown podcast. Today, I'm joined by one of the most iconic NBA personalities. He's a former NBA champion and the current color analyst for the Boston Celtics. He's Brian Scalabrine. Scal isn't just an expert on the Celtics. As a former player and the co-host of the starting lineup on the NBA SiriusXM radio, he covers the league at the highest level possible. Scal, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. I'm really curious on what we're discussing on your podcast today.
Yeah, so I want to kick things off and talk about the Celtics to start things off. They're 10-2 in their last 12 games. Yesterday, they got their fifth straight win over the Raptors. They beat some quality teams in the past couple of weeks, whether it's Detroit, New York, Cleveland. What's been working right on this recent stretch for the Celtics?
It's probably a combination of these guys kind of figuring out a lot of the different ways they want to play offense. It's not simple. It's all based off of reads. Think about like in the NFL, you don't run a play. It's the play is based off of what the defense is doing. So that probably took some time. The ascension of Jordan Walsh, I think they're shooting the ball better and they're passing the ball better. When they started the season, I felt like they were a bottom third team in passing, not assists, because that's like a number. It's just like the way I watched the game, like the ball flying around. Like if a guy's wide open, you got to hit that guy. Like they've done a better job of like moving the ball, and their quality of shots has improved. And I really think like they have a really good mix of, the star player in Jaylen Brown, probably a top 10 guy this season. And then you have like the guys who have been there, like the Derek Whites and the Peyton Pritchard. Neemias Queta is like developing into one of the better bigs in the East. And like everybody else falls under, you play your ass off every single day. And if you just let go of the rope for just 1 second, we're going to go with somebody else. And Jordan Walsh has emerged as like that fifth starter who has really made a massive difference, not just defensively, but offensively as well.
Yeah, Jordan Walsh has been pretty terrific. And you talk about the defensive end. Obviously, we know what he brings there with that size and length, but he's also been extremely efficient on the offensive end. And we talked about 10-2 in their last 12. And conveniently, that is when Jordan Walsh came into the starting lineup. Before tip-off yesterday on Celtics pregame, you said he's become a star in his role. What do you make of this stretch for him and what it means for what he can be in the NBA?
Well, I mean, he's always going to hang his hat on defense, and then you find your way. Like the NBA, on the contrary to what everybody thinks, like you get into the NBA because you can score or you can make plays, but you play in the NBA because we call it your floor, right? His floor is really high defensively. He knows where to be out there. He's like a really smart player. Like he knows when to go to the corner, when to slash cut, when to play the dunker. And so like he's earning his way. And now you talked about his efficiency, like before last game, he made 18 of 19 field goals. And that's a lot of that is like being in the right location. And then if you're in the right place and you take the right shots and you play within yourself with 10% more, right? You always want to do 10% more than what you could do, not 100% more, but just a little bit more. You want to be a little risky. And he has like a good balance of all that. So I think he'll just continue to get better. And the more you play, the more the game slows down for you, the easier it becomes. And as long as he's still keeping the mindset of like guarding, being in the right location, cutting when he needs to cut, I think he'll continue to thrive in this role.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because you can tell his overall sort of IQ and feel of the game has really improved. I mean, you talked about whether, when to roll, whether to be in the dunker spot. He's really, inserting himself and he's understanding the game at such a better level where it's, do I pass here? Do I be a little more aggressive here? And that's why I think that's really contributed to his success on the offensive end because, like you said, he's got such a high floor defensively, but the big question was what can he do on the offensive end? So I think that's a great way to put it ultimately for him, and he's making a big impact.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like it's all of Joe's offense is about reading the game. And if you can make the right reads, then you're going to get an opportunity to play more. So he continues to make the right reads. And then at that point, you're talented enough to make the plays, make the shots, making the read is like being in the right place. Then when you have the ball, it's like making the play. And he's doing both right now.
Yeah, he's. I think it's good to see his development because a guy who didn't really play too much the last couple of years, but the roster was pretty good, and then now he's got the opportunity. Obviously, he talked about how Jaylen Brown came to Joe and said that he would be a good guy to put in that starting lineup and give some minutes, and he's really proved it so far.
No question.
So we're around the quarter mark of the NBA season here, and which of course means that trade talk has been rampant. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on what the Celtics may do. There's been some reports of guys, whether it's Ivica Zubac, bolstering the front court. Are there any names that you think Brad Stevens should have on his radar as the February deadline approaches?
It'd be great to trade for Jayson Tatum and get
Yeah.
him back.
hmm
Like, I don't know. I don't know what you can't answer questions until you have problems, right? And everybody has roster deficiencies at this point. But adding Jayson Tatum, you have no idea what that's going to bring to the team. You have no idea if he can come back and play 18 minutes and then eventually work his way up to 32 minutes, right? So I don't know what our deficiencies are at this point. It's easy just to say, well, we need a big, right? But we've been rebounding the ball better. The small lineup has been better. So I don't really have any preconceived ideas. I really like our team. I think everyone fits like a role. And I think if you want to add any player out there that could be available, Jayson Tatum wouldn't be a bad guy to add, right? So I know I'm being facetious a little bit from that standpoint, but um, if you wait till Tatum comes back and you see what you have, then at that point you can kind of make a decision on what you want to do. Are we a championship level team? I think I'm going to answer that question right around January 5th when we have a few home games. Some games we're supposed to win. The schedule lightens up a little bit, and then you have a West Coast road trip. We'll find out where we're at. At that point, I think I'd be better equipped to handle this. And I think at that point, we'll have more inclining of Jayson Tatum maybe returning or not returning.
Yeah, 100%. And, obviously the Celtics have been playing better lately, so it doesn't necessarily make the most sense to go out there and make a move at this moment. But we'll obviously see, later in the season whether Tatum comes back, whether, how things look as of then. But right now they've been playing well. And I think a big part of that is they're all starting to gel together. There's some of these younger guys are settling in. You talked about the rebounding, it was a big problem at the start of the year, but guys like Kata, who's been always, I think, better on the offensive glass, but he's really picked up his game defensively on the defensive glass. So I agree with that answer. I think there's still some time to wait and see. And you brought up Tatum. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on whether you think he comes back. I mean, it's the Celtics have obviously said, in the past they're going to see, and Jayson Tatum himself wants to play this year. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective. Where do you think Tatum's at right now, and do you think he will come back?
I mean, if Jayson Tatum wants to come back, I think he'll come back. I have no idea when. There's a lot that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a $300 million man. As the face of the franchise. He's the face of all kinds of brands. He's got a signature shoe. It's not like me coming back where I feel like halfway decent and I want to play. It's like there's a lot that goes into it. But, I think Jayson Tatum's working his ass off to get to this point. So why are you doing all this and pushing yourself and posting the stuff on social media if you're just going to not play? So I think the goal is for him to play. Barring no major setbacks, he plays. But you never know how injuries recover. And I don't necessarily think it's just the Achilles and whatever that connects to that. It might be something else that could get flared up because he's also never spent this amount of time off. He's always been a worker. He takes 2 weeks off and gets back to work, right? So there's that element of it as well. It's bigger than just one person's opinion, including Jayson Tatum's. There's a lot that goes into him coming back. But I do think with his game and his ability to shoot off the ball, if he came back, he won't be thrusted into this environment where, hey, Jayson, go win us the game in the fourth quarter. We have plenty of guys that could do that and be a stopgap for a month and a half. But eventually, when you get to the playoffs, it's going to be you would need him to be somewhat back to 100%, not just physically but mentally as well.
Yeah, and he's one of the ultimate competitors in this league. You talked about the videos, of him training, doing whatever he can to get back on the court. So obviously, he wants to play. But like you said, the most important thing is that at the end of the day, he's healthy, he's ready. And I think too, it helps if, he could play maybe the last 10 to 15 games of the year. Obviously, he's not going to, play every game, but if he can get some minutes in this season to shake off a little bit of the rust, whereas if he just started playing next season, I think it's a little bit different. So I think it'd be a good opportunity for him to play this year. But like you said, the main factor is he healthy and does he feel 100% healthy?
Yeah. I think like I would look around the March 10th time. If he comes back March 10th and he just increases like 2 minute, 10% a game, like he starts out at like 18 minutes and he's 10%, I'm sorry, 10% a week. So 18 turns to 22, 20, 21, 21 turns to 24, 24 turns to 27. And by the time the playoffs are around and Celtics continue to win and they get a week off, he could be playing like 28 to 30 minutes in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, and that'd be. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. He's top five. He's a real difference maker. He's the face of the franchise. So getting him back would mean a lot, especially even in a year like this where people have talked about it being a gap year. But the Celtics are playing well, and it'd mean a lot to get him back. I'm curious now. We talked a little bit about injuries. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this because LeBron did not play in the Celtics Lakers game on Friday. How unfortunate just was that for him to not play in what potentially could have been his last game at TD Garden, considering all the iconic and signature moments he's had in that building?
I think he'll play another year. So I think
Yeah.
he'll come back. I doubt he walks away after this year. It doesn't feel like this is how LeBron goes out. I, it feels like LeBron might take two tours. He'll tell people he might retire, and then he'll tell people he will retire. So I don't think it's the Garden's last time. But shame on the NBA for creating a back-to-back in a marquee game like Celtics Lakers, right? Like I know the scheduling is not easy. It's easy for us to sit here and complain about it, but I thought the point of doing all this was to make sure we can get those stars playing on marquee games. And what game isn't more marquee than Celtics Lakers? And the Luka thing was unfortunate that the baby thing is
Yeah.
what it is, right? He had to go to Slovenia for that, but it was disappointing that he didn't play. But my guess is he's not done with the Garden.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, I like how you bring up that point because the NBA a couple of years ago obviously instated that rule where, if you have a back to back, for example, the league would rather you have uh player not rest your guys on the game that's not nationally broadcasted. So you're going to have the star players show up on the national broadcast and let's say the day before they rested the local game. But so it's unfortunate to hear stuff like that happen where both the Lakers and the Celtics are on back to backs, and it's the second game of the back to back is that matchup because
Yeah,
it just creates it could be fixed, and like you said, it's easy to complain about it, but I'm sure there is a way that they can definitely fix all this and sort of make it a little bit easier because I mean it's the marquee matchup of what the years the
sure.
Lakers and the Celtics, the greatest rivalry in the basketball.
Yeah, they hopefully next year they create some shoulder day offs, surrounding those games. But the schedule is the thing. Like with the NBA Cup, and no one ever talks about the NBA Cup like this. Is like they jammed in a bunch of games. So now we play 2 games in 2 weeks. But before that, you're playing like 5 games in 7 days, right? So it's just the nature of the beast with the NBA Cup. But I wish they could do a better job of, you know, uh, I don't know, starting the season early, like whatever they could do to make it so those marquee games would not be on, would be, guys wouldn't sit out of them.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, scheduling has been a large topic for what feels like years now. So we'll have to see what they do, especially with all, these new broadcast groups coming in, whether it's Amazon, NBC. So yeah, I want to change things up a little bit here. I want to talk about your broadcasting career a little bit because we have something
Mm-hmm.
in common. You're the color analyst for the Boston Celtics on NBC Sports Boston. I do the color analysis for the Bryant women's basketball team on our WJMF radio. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective, what does it take and how do you prepare to be the color commentator for the highest level of basketball there is?
Yeah, I do it very differently because I don't know how much basketball you can consume. Like I have great databases. Like I have NBA League Pass, right? So League Pass condenses all games for me. Right now, I can go on and watch it tonight. I'm covering for Big NBC. I'm covering Minnesota Phoenix. I'm going to go watch all of Minnesota's last 4 games, all their offensive possessions. For Phoenix, I'm going to watch probably their last 2 games because I don't, without Devin Booker, I kind of already covered them with Colin Gillespie and all that. So I just consume basketball. I do read stats, right? Like interesting things to support my argument. If I like like Minnesota, to me, they've struggled defensively, right? So I know they don't try defensively. I don't need to uh, have the numbers tell me that. I know that. So I look at their last year when they were great, and from March 3rd to the end of the season, one of the best teams in the NBA, they started to guard. So I know what they're doing. They're just kicking the can down the road. They're focusing on offense. They're trying to get through the season, and then they're going to try to pick it up late again. So I know exactly what the Minnesota Timberwolves are trying to do. Phoenix, like their ascension, right? I got to study that a little bit more because it doesn't make sense why they're good. No Devin Booker, no Jalen Green, yet they're in every game and they're still figuring it out. Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie, those guys are playing out of their mind. But you look, Jordan Knott's done a great job defensively. So I might need to watch a Phoenix game against a really good team like Oklahoma City and find out, do they guard? Is that the reason why they're good, right? So it's like the narratives are there. So then you search and by watching, you don't just like, to me, I don't read stats and figure it out. Like for you to cover Bryant, by the way, my daughter's team at Bentley went to play Bryant. They say they got two like stud post players. One's from New Zealand or Australia or something like that.
Rose Nelson, she's from Australia, and then they
she's
have
a beast, right?
Nia Scott, she's a double machine. So they've got some good players. They started the season 7-0, but they've lost a couple straight. But they'll be a good team this year.
Yeah, that's what my daughter was saying. Like the guards at Bentley and the guards at Bryant were somewhat similar, but they had no answer for those two girls, right?
Yeah, no, they have a lot of size.
Yeah. So and I was trying to explain to my daughter what the difference between a D1 player and a D2 player is. And it's not necessarily skill, but a lot of it has to do with size. It's no different than like a mid-major versus like a player playing at Kansas, right? They can always be like the same player, but one is 3 inches taller and 25 pounds heavier, right? So, anyways, but how would you be able to watch all those games without someone cutting that up for you, right? I go click, 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 and I'm watching the Minnesota Timberwolves all offensive possessions, right? So it's a lot easier for me to prepare. I tried to do it the other way, reading stats. I just don't. My brain doesn't work like what we call two-dimensional. I'm a three-dimensional person, so I need to watch action. I have a photographic memory. When I see something, I can reference a play that I saw 3 months ago in the fourth quarter. But if I read about it or I saw it on paper, it wouldn't do anything for me. So it's about it's about finding out your learning style and then emphasizing that and doubling down on it. And that's how I prepare mostly for games. And I have stat people. Like I want to see how good my Celtic team is when they have live ball turnovers. Because a live ball turnover is different than a travel or an offensive foul. Live ball turnovers, what are we playing on live ball turnovers? What are we shooting? What are our points per possession? How many layups are we getting? What is our shot profile out of that? So I see something in my mind. I watch it, I see it, and then I ask somebody to go look up those numbers for me. So that's kind of how I prepare.
And you're so involved in the game. Obviously, you played basketball in the NBA, but you're still so involved now, whether it's coaching, broadcasting. So does some of these angles that you think of when broadcasting, is that come from your time in the league and covering it, or is it more of just stuff that you just notice now?
I'm an inquisitive person by nature. So when we played, we didn't have the 45 cut. We didn't have a Marion cut out of the baseline. There was no Noah LaRoche offense. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Noah LaRoche and what he's doing. So like I'm trying to stay ahead of trends and finding out like John Morant right now better be careful because his the way he plays is becoming like a dinosaur in the NBA. We used to run 80 pick and rolls a game. People are going away from pick and rolls. They could have asked me like in 2005. I would have told them the best way to score is to drive a closeout. So bend the defense and then keep the defense on his heels. But you try to stay ahead of trends. And, I also have an amazing life where I'm in Washington, D.C., hanging out in the sauna, and here comes Joe Mazzulla. So he pretty much traps me in there, and I'm dying, but he's explaining how his offense works. So who has that opportunity when to call up a Joe Mazzulla, a Tom Thibodeau, a Brad Stevens, a Danny Ainge, or whoever? I have friends all over the NBA that I can call and be like, I saw this the other day. What's going on? Oh, yeah, those guys are way ahead of the trends, right? Those coaches are like 3 steps ahead. What they're trying to do is implement it into their team right now. But I use all of my resources to talk about that. And not always just to learn for my broadcasting. Sometimes it's cool to learn for my NBC job, and sometimes it's cool to learn for my AAU team. Like it's all encompassing for me.
Mhm. It's funny that you brought up the Joe Mazzulla story because I literally wrote it down here how you shared that story on Celtics pregame yesterday of Joe Mazzulla literally trapping you in a sauna to explain to you how the Celtics offense works, which I thought was just completely funny. It's resembles the type of person that Joe is. How has it been so far over the last couple of years? I guess working with some of those guys, some of these new faces in the Celtics organization over the past couple of years.
It's just like working with anybody. You know,
Mm.
you establish a relationship. The biggest thing is like I think in their world, you've got to be careful with and maybe I've done this when I was a little bit younger, going to coaches and telling them all the stuff that I know. It's not really about that. It's actually using the stuff that you know and asking it in an inquisitive way and trying to get information that they know. That's what it's really about. And, you know, it's like a communication style. And I learned that throughout the years. Like these coaches are really, really bright, much brighter than we can even imagine. So use your knowledge base to try to extract information, not like secrets, or I don't care about trade rumors or Tatum's coming back or not. Like that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about like how do you create winning habits in the NBA, where I think like the media doesn't cover it the right way. The media is covering, oh, best players need to play and they sit out, but there's a lot that goes into coaching at this point, and you can find out winning habits, establish that, like we talked about with the Celtics. Some of those players that aren't rotational, well, they're rotational players, but not starters. You got to get a lot out of those guys. And what are they doing to get a lot out of those guys? So that's a simple question for me to ask Joe Mazzulla. Like, how are you getting this out of Jordan Walsh? Oh, it's not where he works really hard. No, this is what we're doing when he's on the floor. And this stuff has really helped us.
Well, Scal, I will have you for a couple more minutes here. I want to ask just two more questions. Firstly, you shared this story a lot in the past, how you were, one of the first people to recognize Cooper Flagg after a scout in Maine talked to you about him. What's it been like to see him now? Because you saw him for the first time when he was just 13 years old, and now he's in the NBA breaking records at just 18 years old.
Um, it was a no-brainer for me. And I didn't discover him.
Yeah.
I what I did is introduced him to the really important people of that world. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of nonsense. You can talk to a magazine or a recruiting ranker. I don't really do that. I talk to USA Basketball. I talk to John Shire. Like I just go to the top dogs and say, like I pretty much went to Cooper and said, listen, I'll do whatever I can to help you. I know you're from the middle of nowhere in Maine. So what can I do? And he said, I would love to talk to Duke. I go, that's easy. Like me delivering you to Duke is a layup. If he ended up going somewhere else, that's really on him. But like the introduction is simple, even though John Shire fought it until he saw him live. That's a true. He knew who he was, but he had no idea, right? But I live in the NBA. I know when there's NBA players walk into the gym, you could tell at a young age. The other one was USA Basketball, and that really like fast forwarded Cooper's development, maybe by a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. 2 years might be a little bit of a stretch. It allowed him to get in front of the people who matter and play meaningful games. And this is what you need when you're from the middle of nowhere. When he has to come and play a meaningful game, they got to get their whole team in a car and drive 6 hours for a meaningful game. Well, when Cooper Flagg goes to USAB, he's playing against the best high school players in the country. And they were already on their way. But I just kind of like what I think I did is kind of fast forwarded that process.
Yeah. And I've a question for you then. Little trivia fact. Do you know the first school to offer Cooper Flagg the first college to offer Cooper Flagg a scholarship to play basketball?
Was it UMaine?
No, it was Bryant University.
Oh, what grade was that?
I think he was in eighth grade. He was,
Yeah.
yeah. If you on like all the recruiting websites, and then if you go to Cooper Flagg's Twitter, is for like one of his first posts is,
Yeah.
proud to receive an offer from Bryant University. So
Yeah.
interesting little fact there. But no, I would have thought it would have been Maine too. That Bryant and Maine play each other. So
Uh-huh.
obviously they'll go up against his brother Ace Flagg later this year.
Yeah.
Scal, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Before we part, I want to ask one last thing. One of the things I appreciate most about you on the broadcast is that you always have such good stories. Do you have any NBA story, whether it's your time playing, your time now as a broadcaster, any story you'd be willing to share? It could be anything you want. It's your chance to make it your own.
Yeah, I'm a big. I think we need to like kind of share examples of like what makes people great, right? And I got a chance to coach Steph Curry, and this is before he blew up, before MVPs and all that stuff. And for all the people out there that want to grow up and be Steph Curry and all that stuff, I want people to understand that on a Monday when we have a game, he's there before the game. He shoot or before shoot around shoots. We go through shoot around. He shoots again after. Goes to the game, shoots, does the game. Afterwards, comes home. Next day, before practice, gets after it. Goes to practice, practices. Afterwards, shoots again. That night, comes back and shoots. The next day, we have a game. Before shoot around, and he was so consistent with it, right? And I learned a lot from watching that. It doesn't mean that everyone could be great like Steph Curry, but it wasn't anything magical. It was so consistent with his work. And for all you kids out there that you might be facing, or whatever, grown people as well, you're facing something in life, trust your work and trust the consistency of your work. Don't ride the roller coaster of the ups and downs. Don't get so down. Don't get so high. The bottom line is like just do your work. Do your work and work hard and do it every day. And that consistency will see you through. But I just think a lot of misconception about the NBA is how hard these guys work. And they do work hard, but it's not like they're killing themselves every single time they work. They just do it every single day. They do like the very simple things every day and sometimes multiple times a day. So if you want to be good, you want to be great, you want to be great at this, like don't oh, I get this big break and I'm going to study the night before. Like constantly absorb basketball till you get to the point where you're ready. Your time will come. So for all you guys, and that's just Steph Curry is a one example because he's elite at what he does. But Derrick Rose, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, everybody that I've been around, it's the consistency of their work. And I think for the people who want to make it, if you want to make it, you're given 6-7 days every week, obviously multiple times a day if you can. And those are the ones that end up making it.
Yeah, I think that's a great story to hear because that's a lesson you can take anywhere in your life is to
For sure.
find that consistency and work hard with it. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that story, and most importantly, I appreciate your time today talking about the NBA and the Celtics. Once again, Scal, you can hear him on SiriusXM radio on their NBA radio weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. Also, the color commentator for NBC Sports Boston, Scal. Thank you so much again for taking the time to be here today.
You got it. See you, Zach.